7:15, we had another public hearing. Grab this first. First, read the public hearing notice. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Oxford Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, September 13th, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. in the Oxford Town Hall to consider an article on the warrant for a special town meeting to be held on October 6th, 2021. That would amend the Oxford zoning bylaws, Chapter 3, Section 7, storage of unregistered motor vehicles, by deleting Section 7 in its entirety and incorporating regulations pertaining to unregistered vehicles in Chapter 76 of the Oxford General Bylaw, registration and maintenance of vacant and foreclosed properties, which chapter is also proposed to be amended on the warrant of for the October 6th, 2021 special town meeting. Copy of the proposed language may be reviewed in the town hall or in the land management department. Anyone desiring to be heard should be here, or any written submission of ideas, and I don't see anything from any written correspondence. So, Patrick, you going to do the discussion of this one?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Go ahead.
Appreciate you having me tonight. So I met you already, so what happened. My name is Patrick Dahlgren. I am the building commissioner here in the town of Oxford, code enforcement and zoning officer also here in the town of Oxford. Proposal tonight, basically we're going to take registered, unregistered vehicles out of the zoning completely, remove it out of the zone. We're going to put it into a definition of blight and nuisance, add those two into the general bylaw. Also, we're going to rename Chapter 76 property maintenance and the registration of maintenance of vacant and foreclosed property. So I've been here about 2.5 months now, and doing my daily inspections throughout the town, and go and inspect the house. And turn around, I'll see dilapidated vehicles in someone's property. Another inspection, see some trash, debris. Go down the next street, and the grass is 3 feet high in some properties. Coming up on is an occurring daily, I wouldn't say nuisance, it's just a nuisance. So basically, I'm trying to clean up what I see, and from what I understand, vehicles, unregistered vehicles, out of Oxford are allowed too. And it's been in zoning for about 30, 40 years here in the town. You can have two. So what is an unregistered vehicle? I guess that's the main question. So what is an unregistered vehicle? Just a vehicle that has a VIN number and just unregistered? Or is it dilapidated? Is it missing tires? Is it missing bumpers? There's no clear definition of what the unregistered vehicle is. This is an example. So here is a house for sale on the street. Post World War II, perfect little house, little cape, nice, it's for sale. And I'm just getting married, good starter home. I want people to move to Oxford. Property value looks nice, single car garage, good starter home. Let's see if I can get out of this. And this is the neighbor. So, tractor trailer in a residential zone, tanker. Is that a home occupation? Probably not. So if I'm going to buy that property, this is my neighbor, I might think twice of buying that property.
Well, it looks like they put a fence up to try to hide
Well,
it.
that's the thing. So if you're going to buy a house and you're going to spend, $300,000 and you're going to put $10,000 fence in, because you don't want to look at that every day. Here's a straight truck. This is probably 24,000 GDW. That's in a residential zone. great, we wanna take care of our own, we wanna have our own quiet enjoyment. There is, he's probably self-employed, which is fine. It's okay for him, but what about the neighbor? What about the neighbor that lives next door, has a cookout? Or, has his family over, has to look at that every day. This is all unregistered vehicles in a residential area. There's no license plate on any of these. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, on top of another one, that's 5. This is 6, 7, there's 8 in the back. This is the prime example of an unregistered vehicle. You're allowed to have one. This could be the second car that you traded in. Could be for sale, it's got tires, it probably runs, you can move it. This would be the perfect one registered vehicle scenario. The only question I have on this, they park it on the grass. That's the environmental side of it.
They park on their property.
Yeah, on the grass, that would be the only, this would be your perfect thing, maybe you're gonna sell it, put a for sale sign, this would be accepted, this would be okay. It's not dilapidated, it's not rusted, it's not, missing tech fenders and tires. This would be a nuisance, this would be considered a nuisance and blight. Those are not registered. This is another of blight, grass being too high. Now for the scenario, for this one here, this is right across Main Street. What I do is I put a tag on the door. This is the notice. Say, hey, I'm here. We see that you're not mowing your lawn, you're not taking your rubbish barrels in, whatever scenario it is. This would be blank. I'm a firm believer in code enforcement. 90% of the people, I don't even have to talk to them. I just put the tag. It gets done. 2 days later, this was
I was just gonna say that property is getting mowed on.
Exactly. So what the enforcement is, it's basically a playbook saying, well, if you don't do it, we have the methods and means, the town does, to issue a fine. This is a trailer on a road, this is an obstruction, so there's no tractor, there's no truck. This is on a main road. There's some more of that other site, there's some more unregistered vehicles, a couple heavy equipment,
Is that in a residential neighborhood?
residential neighborhood. This is light, this is unregistered, this is in a commercial zone, look at the pallets. It's a fire hazard. They have a permit for this job, it's a siding job. Look at the way they store the trash. That's a knock at the door, say, you gotta get rid of it. What if they don't do it though? There's nothing really in the zoning bylaw or the general bylaw.
Nothing says they have to have a.
We don't have any teeth in what we do.
We ask them where the trash is gonna go, it doesn't mean that they follow the rule. Some of these are out of order. This is a big one, is tires. I've seen so many tires on residential properties. This
We've made it difficult to get rid of these things.
Exactly.
You know
That's
that,
the whole
don't
thing.
you?
Absolutely.
That's a part of the problem with the town.
Yeah.
You just can't get rid of the stuff.
Here's a tractor trailer on a residential area. 18-wheeler. Construction debris. More construction debris, piles of dirt. This is a nuisance. This would be considered a nuisance. Overgrown vegetation in a residential home. This one actually is for sale. More. Who wants to look at that? This change, if it's the definition, the clarification of blight or a nuisance, isn't really for the person that's committing this offense. It's for the neighborhood. It's to clean up the neighborhood. And unfortunately, I'm the new set of eyes, so I see this. I am sensory awareness. It's like, if you want to go buy a vehicle, say you want to buy a Tesla, a new Tesla, right? Also, you start seeing Teslas everywhere. This one. Sensory awareness. Well, on blight nuisance, this is what I see. A lot of the people may be immune to this because it's just always there. They're muted to that.
So to your point is, can the neighbor call you and say,
Absolutely.
but on that point,
I'm sure you
do
get
they-
those phone
We
calls.
do.
You do, so, but to their point, I know people nowadays, they're afraid to say anything because of retaliation or whatever. I mean, so if they call in a complaint to you, is just confidential or?
Yeah, it's confidential, I'll go take a look, I'll tell them that they get a complaint, most likely it's from one of the neighbors. Here's a tanker truck, this is a commercial, and I showed this picture before. This is unregistered, probably doesn't run, there's truck cabs here, this is through, when you drive by, you see this.
How about all the train things down in the south end of town? That's all it's a power show.
This gentleman here decides to park his vehicles on the front lawn. This person's homeowner, I mean, it's funny because I live in Leicester and I come in from the north, coming south, and I drive in. And once you hit Front Street, Main Street opens up, and especially in August, the grass is so green, it just opens up. It's beautiful all the way down. And then you drive by a couple properties, and you see this, you see the grass overgrown in some other properties. When people come in, if they want to move here, if they want to work here, bring their business here, they're not going to remember the dark green grass. They're going to remember this. This is what they're going to remember. These are the pictures they're going to have in their mind. Well, I might want to move next door. This is a commercial building, broken glass. It's supposed to be secured. It's got glass or plywood. Water's getting in there. And they are renting this out. There's people in there that's renting this out as storage and warehouse. This would be considered a nuisance.
So so first you give them notice and say, what are the steps?
So the first step is trying to make contact, either with a door tag. It's usually pretty effective, pretty much works. If not, I mean, we'd find the order and send a letter out. Order to correct. We'd send it certified, and we send it regular mail. If we don't get anything response back, then we would send out a citation. The way I have it written here, it would be a $200 fine, and it's every day the fine starts over. It's continuous. It's $200 a day. So they clean up the violation.
So the owner of the property, say it's a house and they haven't mowed the lawn and they got threshold, the owner of the property is getting $200 a day until the issue is addressed.
Correct.
Well, they could appeal, either they fix it or appeal.
I'd say 90 to 95% people want to do the right thing. They know the grass is 3 feet high. I know I gotta get it out there, I know. Yeah, I'm trying to do something with that vehicle. I'm trying my best.
We went through this 10, 15 years ago, Patrick,
Mm-hmm.
and what you said exactly happened. Once the people were, at that time, they're out and I asked them, and we're talking about the grasses, this other big stuff. And I almost 100% want to apologize to you, I'm going to take. I have a question for you.
Sure.
You went further back. There was one,
Yeah, I was
it
trying
was
to
on a green strip of grass.
find some other pictures that I had here.
The green strip of grass between the sidewalk and the pavement on Main Street.
Correct.
The Master Plan Implementation Committee, Roger knows that, we're having a meeting with the DPW.
Mm-hmm.
And we've noticed that, or someone noticed, that going down Main Street, you got some areas that are beautiful. Some people do a wonderful job, the town does a wonderful job. And then you got areas that are like what you showed us. So one of the questions we're asking is, it's town-owned land, we know that. The question is, who's responsible for maintaining it? And we haven't really got, hopefully we're gonna get an answer when we meet with Jared at the next meeting. Number one, whose responsibility is it? Because some people say it's the property owner, the abutter. Some people say they don't know. So one of the things we've asked them to do is to give us a price or a number, as if the town just took care of that whole strip, seeing it's town land. It's gonna give us that information and we can share that with the public, because that would solve that problem.
Doesn't it seem like it would be the town's responsibility? If we
It
own
would-
it, we
yeah,
take care of it, right?
Well,
Why would it be the resident?
this is probably something, Craig, that was 100 years ago. We've done some research on records, and people talk about the downtown area. In 1888, there was a group of people that wanted to got together to put sidewalks. This has been an issue for 200 years, and that's the question we're trying to get. If it's town-owned land, how can we make the property owner, be responsible for it? We don't know if there's some law or some rule. But we're going to get the answer to that question. In the next
Well, look at what's the date? If you don't
You gotta do your sidewalk.
if you don't snow plow and
Yeah.
de-ice sidewalks, you can be through their ordinances.
So the
They
first
treat-
thing-
they
Even
treat
though
the
the
sidewalk
sidewalk
as the
I know
property
what you're
owner's
saying.
too.
So the first thing we have to do is find out what is the rule, what's the rate. And then the second thing is, if it is the property owner, maybe we'll look into it and see if we're better off taking it. Your point is very well taken, and we haven't gotten an answer yet, but we are, again, we're meeting with the DPW director, it's the end of this month, right, Roger? To discuss a number of DPs, including the roads and downtown and all that stuff. That is one of the questions that we're asking. We'll get an answer for it, and then we'll share it with the public. It's more defined than what we're talking about here, specifically for our Main Street, but
And
it's still blight.
We did change that for the downtown area, from the center line to the property line. I thought we could change it, how many feet.
Well, that had to do for setback. That didn't
yeah.
have,
But
the right of way, from what I
Right-of-way, that's
understand,
it,
is we
right-of-way.
own 113 feet is our Main Street. Some people think it's just a pavement. It isn't.
no,
I'm sorry to get off track, but it is kind of related to what
That's
you're
important. This homeowner, he finds junk and then tries to resell it. Two refrigerators on the front lawn with his box truck also on the front lawn. And according to the 14,000 GDW, he would still be allowed to have that box truck on his property. That would fit under the 14,000 GDW. Because that will cover your plumbers, your electricians, even some landscapers. So your home occupation, self-employed, would still be covered, but it would have to be parked on pavement. You couldn't have the trash outside, and that's also his house. So he collects stuff and then tries to resell it. But this is big screen TV, some other stuff. I've actually talked to him.
not like a perennial yard sale.
You know what he wants it, I tell you?
We're supposed to, I think it's two, you're allowed two, right, I think?
To what?
2 yard sales a year.
Oh, I don't know.
But I think it is, I think you're only allowed 2.
He has one every day.
Yeah, every day, yeah.
So this is a prime example. It's actually right around the corner. There's a couch and the TV there since I started.
Is it
So-
free?
Well, that's to be determined, right?
You're throwing a
So-
TV with
By
it?
now it is.
Yeah.
So door tag, my name and contact information. About a week later, the couch is gone. TV's still there. It's a little bit harder to probably get rid of, but it's
That's
progress.
part of the problem.
It's progress.
To get rid of this.
It's progress. This is another example.
This
Two
turns
straight
to hire a
trucks.
dumpster, you don't get rid of it.
Well, we have the trash thing twice a year too.
Right, well, pick
Oh,
up,
Bulk
and
pickup. I
that's,
mean, most towns don't have
that's
that.
coming
Well,
out.
maybe that's what he's waiting for.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, you're right, that's true.
I know that.
It's coming at the end of the
That's
month.
Page Lane.
So here's a residential, he's a homeowner, he has a business, probably a moving or trucking company, which is great, we want businesses here. What about the guy in the yellow house, the family that lives there?
Now, are those trucks registered?
Yes, they are. That would be, this is a commercial vehicle. At some point in a business owner's life, you have to draw that line. You've got to get out of the pool and jump into the lake. You have to make that jump. This would be, they're over that. They should really make that transition to maybe find a commercial.
Because the rest of the yard looks nice, the rest of the house doesn't.
To be honest, that's what we talked about on 56 was small businesses being able to put a
Businesses like that, exactly.
This is unregistered, total grown. Believe it or not, there's another vehicle here, a camper of some sort. So if I live across the street and I gotta take my kids down to the park, I gotta walk by this every day.
What about, because I know a good example, this guy probably has 15, 20 cars, but they're all covered, they're all
With
not
trees.
not with trees or anything, no, he's got them in his yard, they're all covered, they're all, whether they're classic antique cars and all that
Right.
shit, but they're
out of sight.
they're out of sight because they're covered, but they're still in his yard.
They're still in the yard.
Yeah.
He's just not thinking it's a nuisance.
No, I think it's nuisance, but he's not right. But
But he's looking at it from his perspective.
right, and it's
Not the
been
neighbors.
there for 50 years. But again, they're all well covered.
Patrick, let me ask you, so a lot of this is covered already, but it has to do with specific zones, right? There are certain zones that you can't do this, what you wanna do is take some of this You wanna firm it up a little bit, but you wanna take it out of, like Rich said, we don't zone blight. And if you allow it in certain areas, it's gotta go in a general bylaw, that's what you want. You wanna have this town
You
line.
can still have a commercial property, and still have one.
Yes.
There is no like spot.
You always showed us good examples of that, you got the building there that people are actually in there and it's a mess.
Right, it's a mess. Let's see, I did a map, I can find it. This is not really set up.
Yeah, wouldn't Board of Health have an issue with that building too?
They would. They would have, they have their own sanitary code, yes.
How about fire department, I mean, Ken's here.
Ken, yeah.
We've been trying, and we've been pretty successful in cleaning up the agriculture around commercial buildings in town. And again, it's not that hard. Like Patrick says, you either make a phone call or you know, I've put my business card on a couple commercial properties and please contact me. And a couple days later, the problem is solved. But it's tough because we have a lot of them. There's a lot of properties in town. And that should be getting thrown out.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I mean, it's been, that went up for auction, and that property is, been sold.
So compared to surrounding towns, where is this what we're looking to do is pretty much fit in with what our abutting towns
It's
have?
not the map, I was trying to find it, in Drive. Always pull it, we can scroll through some of these pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that doesn't think that's blight is being unreasonable.
The only good thing there is the dumpster.
Yeah. That's,
They're not using it. So there's a scenario here. Here's all the trash in this property. So we have empathy for them, but what about this resident here has to look at that? That's what this comes down to. They put these trailers up to block it, to shield it.
Well, it also affects property value.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the other
Look
thing.
at the first picture of that house for sale. You know,
Yeah, but people say it was there when you bought the house, so.
That's true.
It's true, but it's
It's true, but not a good
this is a
reason.
dumpster that they,
Right.
some people have gone through, trying to find, metals and stuff, it's all over the ground. There's an unregistered vehicle on the grass. I've actually called the police the first time I was here, they do you think, nope, it's on someone's property. Nothing we can do about it. If it's on the street, unregistered, then we might be able to do something.
But you could do something
I got
that's up to two, right?
One, so there's only one, they'd be
Well,
fine.
but it's
This one
also,
moves.
but it's also on the grass.
Right, it's another thing, it's also on the ground, but this one, looks like it can move, it has all its tires, and there's air in the tires. This is commercial, these are all, probably not serviceable, not running. Some more tabs and there's another one of the truck, that's all
These
over around.
These aren't home businesses though. I mean, that,
This is a commercial property,
yeah,
it would
I mean,
fall under the same umbrella, that's like. These are all unregistered. This is, I believe, this gentleman told me he had a class 2 license, I cannot find one for this address. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's more out back, and the camera just can't see. This is a property that is under foreclosure. And having problems trying to find out who actually owns it now.
I tried
I
this
know,
out,
it's
yeah.
just, but I tagged it, so
So-
if a new potential owner or the bank that.
I was just gonna say, the bank, if it's foreclosure, some bank must have a.
Yeah, but you gotta find out which bank, and then you gotta get that bank to call you back.
There's multiple mortgage holders.
Yeah.
Like a second
It's
mortgage.
not as easy as, I've tried to find that same property, I've tried to find information on.
There's construction debris. This is Main Street, this is
that's the
Well, we're
class
working
2
on that,
license
right.
we're working on.
Yeah.
so,
Got a bunch of stuff hanging in the woods.
this is a tractor
Stuff
trailer.
is
Yeah.
growing around it.
we were misled on that too. We weren't told that was gonna happen. The people who came in here were gonna tell what, you were at the meeting, and they're gonna have 30 cars, they're gonna pay, clean up the parking lot, next thing you know, you got that, so. You were totally misled on
This
that.
is a residential property. People were living there not too long after this picture, prior to this picture being taken. They were still living there prior to this picture, but they're gone and they cleaned it up.
There's a dumpster there and if we,
So just by putting a sticker on the door, you
Phone call.
solved, I guess,
Board of Health started this, and
Yeah.
with Ellison being out, kind of try to help them out with some of the stuff, again, back to the refrigerator guy. Let's try to find that map for you. Vehicle map. There we go. Nice. Okay, great. So we're in the middle. Right now, we presently have two, and it's in zoning. Sutton has two, and it's in their bylaw. Auburn is 0. You have any unregistered vehicles in Auburn. And that's also in their bylaw. Leicester has 1, it's in the bylaw. Webster has 1, and you only can have it for 30 days, and it's in their bylaw. Douglas is 1 also, 30 days. Dudley 1, it's also in their bylaw. So in the surrounding towns, Oxford and Charlton were the only ones that have it in zoning. Now, ours have been in for about 34 years. Charlton's just put theirs in around 2017. If you look at them, it's almost the mirror image of ours. So maybe you might want to call Charlton and tell them it's not going to work. So 30 something years from now, you're probably in the same situation as this town. Try to find Millbury. I had some problems with Millbury's right here, but I believe it may be 1. Similar to Douglas and Webster with the 30 days.
but that's strictly for unregistered vehicles.
Correct. That's
To me, the issue is all that other debris. All right, they got 1 or 2 cars that, they're trying to work on it, but it's that other debris that really,
Right,
big
so-
commercial vehicles.
Right. So I want to take out the zoning, the unregistered vehicles, and put it in the definition as blight. So we'll remove it in and out of zoning. So what that'll do is that will give us the ability to enforce now and previous issues to properties, commercial and residential.
So people will still be allowed to have 2 unregistered cars.
1 unregistered. vehicle.
1 unregistered.
But it's going to clarify the definition of an unregistered vehicle. It can't be missing parts. It's got to be able to move on its own power. The list is actually, but it also addressed, debris, grass, vegetation, dumpsters.
And like I said, the guy's got a commercial truck out, an 18-wheeler parked in his,
Right.
abutting his neighbor's yard or whatever,
It's not allowed. We would not be allowed. That would be considered.
I think to your point too, is for the vehicles, some vehicles in town have been there for like 20 years, still sitting in the yard, thinking
Right.
maybe someday they're gonna fix it up, which never happened.
I have one picture. I wish I could find it. They want to say.
I've always had one
Yeah.
registered, just to plow the yard, plow the
Excellent,
driveway.
absolutely. Absolutely.
How would we handle, we've got a couple farms in town. How would they,
Well, if you have a farm plate, that falls under this.
So they're all set.
They're all set.
I remember that one very clearly.
I have a tractor that's unregistered.
That,
Is it registered?
that property there
I
was
keep it in my
that's for a
mind.
long
I got two
time,
of mine.
that's on the Overster Road.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
yeah,
you gotta have some flexibility.
I think it would be important if we're gonna do this at a town meeting, that we need, if we can, show people what we're talking about, so they understand what we're looking at. We're not looking at,
So,
I mean, like that, bring that, say, this is what we're looking at.
so in that picture, the camp is okay, but all the pile of pallets and stuff like that.
There's no plate on it. It's not registered. So there's multiple trailers there. None of them have a plate. Well, maybe one would have a plate, and you switch the plate.
It's gonna be a
Yeah.
civil discussion.
I think it's important we let people know what we're talking
You go up that street a little further, and there's an RV that they got, it's used as a second home, basically.
We're gonna have to have this presentation at town meeting, cause it's gonna.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Because by definition, that guy's probably not talking about, he's probably got 15, 20.
They'll probably go back and tell you, well, if we had a transfer station and we could get rid of a lot of stuff more easily, especially tires and that.
Well, they'll
We can't
take
get rid
tires
of
on 56. You gotta pay for it. They'll take TVs. They'll take tires. I think Pratt will.
Pratt will do,
Pratt
yeah,
will
Pratt,
take
I was gonna say Pratt will do, but you gotta pay for it.
Yeah, but they're not like.
No, it's not expensive, not crazy expensive.
Why don't we open up the dump again? Bring back the dump.
The burning one.
Yeah, the burning.
It's
It's already up.
If I'm bringing my kids down, to the school bus, I gotta walk by this. This is what I would have to look at. Yeah, I've got complaints on this.
Oh, yeah, I know.
See, that's why I think if you show the pictures, I don't think you're gonna have an issue.
Yeah.
Because most people don't wanna look
We're gonna need consensus.
But also, like you say, most people say, yeah, I understand, and they take care of the problem. It's people, I don't know who this is, but it's people like that, obviously aren't gonna do anything. You say, okay, you deal with it.
That property was a lot worse than it's bad, it was a lot worse than.
It's a lot better now.
Yeah,
I agree
it
with
was
that.
a lot
It's cleaned up
worse.
quite a bit.
It matches and everything.
But that's continuous enforcement to the Board of Health, continuous enforcement, so now it's all cleaned up. The owner of the property is now calling me to complain for other people.
Well, these ones.
Seriously, now well, I have to do it, everybody's doing it.
Yeah, right.
Right,
There's
well,
gonna be a
that's-
lot of
yeah,
that.
that's, you're gonna be a lot, yeah.
Well, you know what?
Like,
If
He's right.
if other people are violating it, he's right. He's just doing it to harass you. Well, but you're right. What's good for the goose is good for the something.
Okay. Anyone from the public here to address this one? Yes, sir. Boy, he wants the podium.
You can sit here, Mark, come on.
Yeah, there's no,
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, nothing is, we're not recording, the mics are not, you guys gotta speak loudly for our votes.
I'm Robert King from 59 Quabog Avenue.
Yep.
The concern here is that the unregistered motor vehicles provision was actually already in the general bylaw and was removed in 1987. I don't know why I didn't have time to request the discussion at the time. And the court recently addressed the issue of moving items from zoning to the general bylaw in Valley Green Grow Incorporated versus the town of Charlton in summary judgment. And the outcome was that a general bylaw may only regulate a subject if there's no history of the municipality of the subject being treated under zoning. So the concern would be that if we attempt to move this to the general bylaw as part of a larger initiative, that it could actually be struck out in the courts if anyone wanted to go through the effort of actually challenging it. And there's a lot of case law to support that. Basically, the idea is that if you try and move things into the general bylaw, it's a lot easier to put them in the general bylaw, and putting them in the zoning bylaw is more difficult. It's considered more protective under 40A. And so it's the courts kind of view it as you're kind of trying to game the system by going around the 40A requirements to do things in your general bylaw.
Okay, I hear where you're coming from, but our problem with our zoning bylaw is there are no teeth in it to enforce. And that's why he wants to go to the general bylaw. It's more enforceable for the zoning enforcement officer to get action. Okay, I can tell you for a fact that as a planning board, we expect things, but if it doesn't get done, we don't have any teeth. We can't get it done.
We're not the enforcement, right? There's many people that are in violation of the site plans and we have no strength to do anything about it.
I'm just telling you what the court says.
Okay.
So we could do this, and
It's something we're gonna have to check in on.
yeah.
So are you saying, that Charlton already did it and they got in trouble and had to kick it back? I mean, what are you saying?
Not for motor vehicles. The issue, so the case law is regarding changes from zoning into the general bylaw. And there's a lot of case law supporting that. I can go through it.
But that's what we're doing.
Yes,
Zoning into the bylaw.
exactly, and that's why it would be applicable. Is that the courts have held that if it's in zoning, putting things in zoning is more difficult. There's public hearings. You would need a 2/3 vote. And that if you try and move it into the general bylaw and it's the same subject, in this case, registered motor vehicles, then they would look at that as kind of the town trying to cheat and get around 40A.
I don't know, we're doing the same approach. We're in a public hearing right now. We're treating it just like a zoning bylaw issue too. You just were here for the first one, okay? This this one here happens to be the zoning enforcement officer recognized it was in the general bylaws and then it got put into zoning. But to your point, just because it went into zoning doesn't mean it can be enforced, okay? Our zoning is more for something that's site plan related, whatever. We have teeth in the fact that they won't get an occupancy permit until they do everything they're supposed to do. Okay, that's the only teeth we have as a board. We don't have fines. We don't have anything else we can pursue to get the issue resolved. Okay, that's where the zoning enforcement officer is saying, let's get it back in the general bylaw because I can enforce that.
I'm not arguing on the merits,
Okay.
because it's a technical argument based on
Okay.
the case law.
We're doing the full circle, I guess. From what I'm hearing, it used to be in the general bylaw and it got put into zoning. Okay, but if the intent to put into zoning through that judge was it makes things more, I don't know, enforceable, it's just the opposite. It becomes non-enforceable.
Keep in mind too, before we go through with these, and you can verify this or not, this stuff is reviewed by town council before we make these changes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, these
if
these
there's any
articles
legal,
are-
and there have been times where we've asked the zoning judge and they come back and said, no, you can't do that. You may be right, you may be wrong, but that's part of the process that we go through. And again, town council will give us their legal opinion as to what, because what happens is, whenever we go to town council, they don't tell us, we're gonna go to court and win. What they tell us is, they would feel comfortable defending any changes, okay? They'll never tell you they're gonna wanna lose, and then we go based on that. So that is part of the process. You know, you did your research, you're bringing up something that needs to be questioned, and it's part of the process that will be reviewed by our town council.
So it hasn't been reviewed by the town council yet, is that accurate?
Well, they have given a copy of
They'll come back and they'll give us a
it. They
recommendation.
gave us a recommendation.
Oh, so they haven't.
They'll come back and give us recommendations. Sometimes it's wording, sometimes it's, they'll give us the full recommendation.
But they're not, they're very, it's part of the court process. That's why we have town council.
We have town council that has to defend anything we do.
So they may come back and you may be right, they may come back and say, no, we would feel comfortable. But it is part of the process.
If they do that, will there be another public hearing based on the changes, or will?
Well, if they do that, we'd have to change the bylaw and we'd have to have another public hearing.
Our will be taken out of the warrant. It'll be postponed indefinitely until we fix it.
We have another meeting.
Yeah. Maybe we'll even get their comments before.
Yeah.
Before it even goes to the, could get withdrawn on the floor
It
of
could
the town
be,
meeting
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we don't get it till the last minute, actually, town council will be getting it.
It'll be at the town meeting too.
But again, people need to understand that is part of it. We just don't do a bylaw, and then I think the state has to approve it as well. Right?
AG's office.
They do.
So the attorney, say town council says to us, we feel comfortable defending on it. Goes to town meeting, we vote it in. Now it's got to be approved by the attorney general. So it's a pretty extensive process. We just can't. The key thing is that people have to go to the town meeting, do their research like you've done, ask their questions, and then vote on it. That's what is going to happen, and that's probably the next to the last step. Either it approves, if it's approved, like I say, it goes to the attorney general. If it's not approved, we're done.
So is the bylaw change going to go to the attorney general? I thought just the zoning change would.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not-
So they wouldn't have a problem with us taking out of zoning. The problem we would have is putting it into the general bylaw after it had been in zoning.
we don't know that. That's why we're talking to town council.
It's a definition, so it's a definition.
The only other thing I'd like to add is on the merits, as far as the commercial vehicles. When I look at them, I see taxable personal property. And so if they're registered, I'm assuming that the residents who own them are paying taxes to the town for the personal property for those vehicles. Am I incorrect about that statement?
no.
No.
I think what he was saying was sometimes where they're positioned in.
Yeah, so
They're parked on a lawn,
Yeah.
they're parked
There was
on
a
a
couple
lawn,
of features
yeah.
there that they had beautiful lawns and a nice front yard, and the truck was parked.
Parked right on top of it.
yeah, and so my point would be that if you tell people they can't park them at their residence, which is in the town of Oxford. They may park them out in some other town, and then they would no longer be personal property that's taxed in the town of Oxford. Because it would be taxed based on where the vehicle is kept.
With the excise tax.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we would be looking at potentially, if people couldn't cite the vehicles in town, that tax revenue would go to wherever they did cite them. So that's something that the town may want to consider.
The flip side of that is you got property values.
Property values will probably be, exponentially higher than losing some excise tax for a couple, commercial vehicles in a residential zone.
And I think still insurance companies require that the primary address is
It's what's registered.
We garage it. So the larger vehicles, it said at some point the business has to make that decision.
Yes.
Just too big.
We had, years ago, we had an issue with buses. People wanted to bring their school buses home. And we worked it out. They ended up, I think the town ended up giving a piece of land where they could park the buses on town property. Bus drivers could drive their cars and we just solved the problem.
The only other thing I was going to say was it sounds like the commissioner's doing a pretty good job just giving people notices. And
It works.
It may not actually
It
be
works.
necessary to go through the pain of trying to bring something like this to town meeting because I can say in my own neighborhood, there's a lot of people who have trucks that would easily fall outside the requirement, like oil trucks, like Owls parks in my neighborhood. Personally, it doesn't bother me. Like I said, I see them, I say, oh look, somebody has a job, they're working, they're bringing revenue into the town.
But if one of those trucks had a spill or something happened to one of those tanks, you'd have a problem.
Well, there's already regulations for that. So if you start spilling oil in your neighborhood, they're
But again,
it should not for that.
well, I guess it shouldn't be, what I'm saying is that truck shouldn't be there.
In order for you to properly park a transfer truck, an oil transfer truck or tanker truck or whatever you want to call it, it has to be permitted through the fire department. If you want to park a tanker truck in the town of Oxford at your residence, it has to be permitted through the fire department.
So it is allowed though.
It is allowed, but it has to be permitted.
You don't have a permit.
So the state used to give out every August 30th, we used to have to give out stickers on the back of cargo truck tankers.
Yeah.
And that let the Massachusetts DOT and the state police truck team know that that truck had been inspected and it has a proper permit. 2 years ago, the state did away with the sticker. So you don't see the stickers on the back of the trucks anymore. They don't come to me or go to the DOT for inspection anymore. But they are required under Massachusetts General Law and the Massachusetts Comprehensive Fire Code to be permitted through the fire department in the town that they reside in and where they're parking the truck.
Surprised that so on the oil tank truck, the transfer vehicle is okay, but trailer truck would not be okay. Am I correct, assuming that
The truck is supposed to be empty. When it parks, when the truck parks overnight, it is supposed to be empty.
I don't have anything further to add.
Okay, thank you. Can we keep this up enough?
Yeah.
I just wanna be clear, this is not like
No.
an agent on business. It's not, definitely not.
No,
That's
you
why-
saw, you
No, I-
showed
I-
mostly residential.
No, I think it's except you have a good process already, you're just looking to continue it, and that's a great thing.
Do you think you're comfortable with the wording that's in there, and you think town council will be comfortable with that too? So we don't have to continue this next meeting or whatever. We'll just see what happens. I mean, it's not unusual for something to get bolted. Even the selectmen saying that they'll entertain to get postponed definitely. It's something that's not right. And they've got town council as part of their discussion as they go into the warrant. So, entertain a motion to close this public.
So moved.
So moved by Craig,
I'll second it.
seconded by Jeff. discussion? Being none, all those voting in favor? Opposed, abstentions, carried unanimously. Okay,